All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tie the low water Baetis now. One of my favorite patterns for those really selective and picky fish that are, you see them rising in that slow, flat water where they have time to look at and judge your pattern. So this light profile that I have on this pattern is really the main reason that I prefer it. You see a lot of patterns like your Adams, your parachute Adams, and other patterns that have real heavy hackling up here on the head there. And it just leaves too much of an impression on the water, and so I think it deters those trout from accepting it as a valid natural. So with this, let's go ahead and jump into tying it. So I'm using the 100 SPBL Umpqua hooks, and we're going to tie this in a 16. I tie these 14s, 16s, 18s, and 20s. Believe it or not, sometimes those big dry flies, bigger sizes you can get away with in the springtime when those fish aren't quite so selective. And so we're going to use some Vivus 14-aught light olive thread. Get that going on the hook there. Trim your tag. And tailing fibers, we're going to use tailing 5/8, and this is in an olive. And I'm going to pick out 4 of these fibers here. I may have one extra one. Yeah, that's 4 right there. So make sure your tips are lined up. Now your tail is going to be the length of the body, so just keep that in mind while you're tying it in. So I'm going to go ahead and just lengthen it out. Yep, looks about right. Give it a couple turns. Yep, tail length looks good. Let's go ahead and work my way down. Tie in your tail fibers all the way to the bend of the hook. Okay, I'm going to bring my thread underneath the tail, kind of propping those fibers up. And spray them out, splay them out. I'm going to bring the thread in between, dividing them in half. And then bring it forward. Now I can trim my tags. Now for the body, I am using strip goose biot. This is an olive. All you need is one. And so you see there's a curve to this feather material. I want the curve up. And you can see as well there's a nice translucent edge to it, and then there's a hard rigid edge. I want that translucent edge basically facing up. As I wrap this, I don't want that little fuzzy ridge that occurs from goose biot or biot material. Baetis bodies are sleek and slender, and they don't have those little ridges on them. And again, we're looking for more of an impressionistic style fly than a tractor style. So once I got it tied in, tied in there, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a bit of UV resin on the body. As you start to wrap and wind this material, you'll get a little bit of that glue getting pushed out. And so when you hit it with the light, it'll activate even underneath the body. So as you see, as I make my turns, I'm overlapping my turns, so it compresses down that little fuzzy ridge, again giving me a nice slender body. Okay. That locked down in there. A few turns to really secure it. Go ahead and hit it with a light. Whatever little bit of UV resin came through will be activated and set. And so, again, this stuff can be a little temperamental. Let's go ahead and lock that all down. come back. Okay, so we're using UV frog's hair in olive. I like this because it's a fine material, and for the most part it dubs on nice and tight. You don't need a whole lot. That's probably going to be perfect, if not even maybe just a little too much, but we'll see where we're at. And again, if you don't have enough, you can always add more, which is good. Start with less and you can always add some on. Yeah, that looks like about right. So I'm just going to dub that on, no wax, so I can manipulate and move that material around if I need to. And then go ahead and just build a ball. I'm just looking to build this material right up as the thorax. The thorax on your Baetis and most of your mayflies is real boxy. Again, it houses the legs, the wings, and so it's going to have a really dominant silhouette to it. Now let's go ahead and get our wing material together. And so I'm using natural dark dun CDC, and forgive me if I look through. I gotta find a matching feather here. There you go. Okay, so I got 2 feathers here. You can see that right there. So I'm looking for feathers with a nice square top to them. And one thing I can do is I'm just going to see how you got the curve of one feather. I'm going to put the curves facing each other, just like so. So they basically reinforce. I want this wing flat. So I'm just going to hold it down, match up my tip ends there. Come up a little bit more on the other one. There you go. So I'm just going to pinch that material and just slide my hand directly up the feathers until I'm able to get a nice tight wing there. And I want this wing length of the body. And as far as our proportions go, wing length, body length, tail length, pretty much all going to be about the same. So where I'm going to tie it in, it is going to extend just slightly past the abdomen. I'm going to lay that down and pinch and loop. So I got this material pinched directly above the hook shank. I want this wing to come in nice and flat on the body here. So we'll try to achieve that just by pinch and looping. And do a couple turns just with that. And give it a few turns there because it laid in real nice and flat. You can see how that's flat above the body. And adding those multiple turns, when I go to cut this material, you want to cut it just a little at a time. Don't go all out and just give it a bunch of cuts, because sometimes just the pinching of the scissor will cause it to tweak and turn a little bit. So that's nice and set. I'm going to come in forward right below the eye or the base of the eye and clean up all this scraggly stuff with my thread. Give myself a nice clean base to tie in my wing. Now my wing, I'm using some dry fly hackle, saddle, and grizzly. Now I want this material, when I flare it out, I want that material to extend just past the hook. Again, I want a nice leggy fly without having excessive turns of hackle. And as well, having that longer material will give it the surface area in order for it to float well, especially on that low flat water. Now I did peel away some of that hackle fiber right there, just long enough to where I tie it in. Now if I did too much, I can always come in and trim it down, but that's about perfect. So when I tie it in, it's just at the base of the eye of the hook. And so when I come in, I don't have any material to cut. I'm going to wrap down to the eye and then come back just before the wing. Now I have the shiny side up or towards me and the dull side down, because I want that hackle fiber to splay back towards the tail there. So I'm going to come in, keep my wing out of the way. So you don't need many turns, like I mentioned, 1.5. That's it. I'm going to bring my thread up, pull my hackle into my thread, come back down towards the eye a little bit on my second turn there, and I'm going to pull all my material back. So I'm going to lock all that hackle fiber down as best I can, just working my way up. There you go. And before I trim my hackle, I'm going to go ahead and wet finish. 2, 3, let me just give it another set here, a little higher up. I'm going to trim my hackle before I eliminate my thread. Again, push into your hackle so you don't cut your hackle, and the same with your tying thread. Push into it, just separate the scissor jaws and just push through. Okay. Alright, so just hit it with some resin just to secure it. The light. Now as we start to spin it, you'll see how that wing stays propped up. Again, that's from the ball of the dubbing, giving you that profile. Even from the side, it looks like, you know, an actual bait is sitting on the water. Now again, having the impression or reducing the impression on the water, if you get fish that are getting really picky, they're coming up looking at it, maybe refusing it, what I've done a lot of times is I've actually just trimmed away the bottom of this hackle here. Because when you see Baetis sitting on the water, they're sitting a little flatter, and obviously their legs are splayed out from the body. They're not, the legs aren't underneath the body pushing up. They're not doing push-ups in that regard. So I'm going to trim that away so I got a little bit flatter profile, so the body of the fly sits more properly on the water itself. I got one extra one there, and I'll clean that away and show you there. So there you go. So it's going to sit nice and flat on the water and have that nice leggy profile going out away. So with the wing and everything. So all right, we'll tie a few of these up, give them a try, and yeah, hope they do well for you. They do well for me. All right.